Hey HCDA and welcome back to Satisfactory! Last time we built this awesome looking factory over here. We took it to the next level quite literally by making a 3-story building. And this time around we are going to set our sights on even more, well, maybe not complicated, but definitely more advanced targets, because we are going to complete the objective for phase 1. The smart panels is the thing that we are currently producing over here. And hopefully we'll have 50 by now. Let me check. 49, just one more to go, and then we are able to hop over to our elevator and put them in and unlock the next 2 tiers of production. And here we are at our elevator. We can just approach the platform. We can put in the 50 smart panels that we need to unlock, and then we can manually do this, and it looks really cool and feels really good to do this actually. And then we can go and send it. Actually, for some reason, do not need to power this whole thing. Let's actually see. Ooh, we might need to move a little bit back to actually be able to see what's going on over here. Oh, okay, that's really cool. I liked the whole pods flying off from our base, but I like this even more. I think it really has the whole space elevator feeling to it. But okay, that means we now have unlocked a few more tiers, so let's go check them out in our main hub. Hey Bob, I know you're excited about the new unlocks as I am, so let's go check them out. So we still have these 2 to unlock actually, so we have the awesome sink that we probably want to take a look at pretty soon as well. But for now, I definitely think that we want to go for the coal generator first, because I am very tired of running around and manually powering my base. Now, the downside of the way we actually build our base right now is because we build it as one big base. We actually are kind of forced to power the entire thing at the same time, even though it's not necessarily the most efficient way to do that, because of course, because we already had everything else up and running for a long time, we actually have a lot of surplus of several materials, so you could just stagger that in terms of production and take advantage of the pre-production you did in earlier phases. But anyway, coal generation is definitely what we want to unlock. What else do we have? We have vehicle transport, tractors. Okay, so we have trucks that you can have run around. That's actually pretty cool. A truck station for the sending and delivering, I assume, and more inventory slots. That's always nice. And then we have steel production. So I'm guessing that this will basically be the new copper and iron. And then on tier 4 we have the advanced steel. So that's definitely the next thing that comes after that. And we'll add miner Mark II. Interesting. Improved melee combat. Okay, that's the thing, I suppose. We have tubes. That's going to be really cool. And then we have even better belts, up to 270 resources per minute. That's going to be really convenient. It's also nowhere near where we are now. So let's go start with the coal power. That's probably a good place to start before we go anywhere else. Well, we have gathered all the materials, including the rotors that we needed for the coal power. So let's see what Ada has to tell us about coal power.
Milestone reached. Coal is an improved alternative power source to biomass and can be fully automated if provided water with the new pipeline buildings and power throughout the initial setup. Coal has been added to the resource scanner. Note: ensure the close proximity of water to the coal production line. Note: pumps will aid in vertical transport of fluids through pipes. Note: throughput and volume indicators are added to each pipe section automatically.
Okay, so first things first, let's find out if we actually have any coal anywhere nearby. Oh, that's not what I want to do, that's iron. Cool. And let's see if we can have it on the map somewhere. We actually do have quite a bit of coal. Wait, what? We have coal here? That's interesting. I'm not entirely sure how we're supposed to get there though, because that's on the other side of the chasm that we were falling into before. There is a whole bunch of coal over there actually. And we also have some coal over there. Now, I'm actually not entirely sure how much coal we need, but before we go off and venture to get some coal, honestly, I'm inclined to go in this direction. Let's see what buildings we can now build. So, production, nothing. Oh, actually, we have the water extractor. We will need copper sheets for that. Okay, that's a little inconvenient, but sure. What else do we need? Power, of course. Cool. So we don't need anything special for this per se. Everything that we need for that is actually things we are already producing, so that's convenient. And then for the pipelines, oh, we're going to need a lot of those copper sheets again. Okay, I'm guessing that is fine. Let's see what we actually need to build the copper sheets. Can we actually make them by hand? I'm not that I necessarily want to do so, but that's convenient. They are made from copper ingots. Okay, that's actually quite straightforward. And it's just a 2-to-1. Okay, so let's see if we can... How are we going to do that, actually? Let me think about that for a moment. Okay, guys, so I gathered a lot of resources. Bob has come over to either crush me or send me off. I'm gonna assume it's the latter. And I think we're off. And the place I aim to go to is the coal facility, or the coal resource that he had up here. There is water nearby, and I've been told we need water. So it seems as good as any place to go. We also had some coal elsewhere, but it's a relatively small coal facility, so I think we'd rather just go big straight away. We are actually going to need 4 coal facilities to power up the entire base that we currently have going. So if we can manage that, that would be awesome. So let's take a long hike. We are getting pretty close to where the oil is, but I just had to take a moment and enjoy the view, because you have to admit this game is very beautiful at times. And actually this is pretty close to where our oil is, but if we don't find any oil, we can just build a little house here on the beach and just go fishing at night or something like that. I mean, wow, just beautiful. Anyway, let's go find some oil and ruin the entire landscape. Look, guys, we did it. We found the coal and actually had to liberate the coal from half a dozen of these spitters that are not too friendly, as you can tell from my health. We have several coal places actually here, resources I should say. They are normal resources, which means they should be producing a little bit more than the iron and copper resources that we had back at our starting base. And we have water nearby as well. We are actually downstairs from where I just showed you the beautiful site. So I think our main mission should be to ruin that site. So let's get to that. Okay, we are here at the beach, and the slope we need to get our power upwards is on the right hand side over here. And you can see the space elevator in the back. It looks really close. It is not close. At least doesn't feel close. We have Bob's cousin Nick over here that is going to help us build this little facility. And we have the coal somewhere in the back over there. So we have water, of course, as well. We are going to need all of that to actually build this. But before we start building this, let's check out the size of a coal facility. So that's actually not all that big. Should be fairly decently sized in order to build this. Now, by the looks of it, it's exactly 2 or maybe 3 segments wide in terms of foundations, and 1 deep, at least from this angle. So that means that we don't actually have to build a huge foundation to make this. Let's see. Let's start building from over here, and then we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this should be enough for the facility itself, and I'm going to take it in 1 more. And there we go. Alright, so this should take care of that. I'm actually going to take these ones out for a moment. Mass delete, please. Yes, yes. And no, I do not want to delete the tower I'm standing on. Let's take the bigger blocks, because that will fit in more nicely with the ground floor. Okay. And then what I'm actually going to do is I am going to put on some more blocks like this. Now, the reason I'm doing this is that these coal facilities have 2 inputs. Actually, we need 1 more block. Let's put those down first. Can we easily do that from over here? Nope, I'm just gonna jump down and do that quickly. Alrighty, I added in some slopes so we can actually get up on these platforms more easily, and now I think we actually have to go down in order to place these power facilities because they're quite big, and that means that they can be a little bit of a nuisance to put down. We do need to make sure they are right on the edge. I think this will be just fine, maybe a little bit more to the back since we have some room anyway. Although, let's see. We could actually just put them straight on the edge like this. But I'm not entirely sure that's going to be optimal. So let's just leave ourselves a little bit of space to work with and place them down over here like this. So this is one. And we are, of course, going to align the next two, or three actually, with the first one. And as you can see, the size of these things compared to the platform is a little bit weird. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like squares of foundation, and that actually fits 4 of these things. So they're slightly bigger than one foundation, which, I don't know, really annoys me, but we'll have to deal with that. So that's part 1. We have the coal generator up and running. Now this is actually going to need water and coal. Coal itself is not really going to be all that special, but first things first, let's start with the water. Now we have our coal facility over here, and we have our water pumps over here, and we're actually going to need 2 of them in order to supply the coal facilities with enough water, or one that we overclock to 150%. So actually we only need 1.5, but we can always just scale up our coal producing facility over here in a moment, double it up, and then we just build one more, and then we have enough water to supply both. But for now, we're going to have to work with this. Now, I was actually thinking, we have this whole ramp thing going on over here, but what if we take out this block and we add in a new block? Let's switch to the default mode for a moment. Let's maybe place down a nice little ramp like that. And actually, no, let's take that out for a moment because I do want to put in some more foundations. Let's go to zoop mode once again. There we go. And then maybe something like, I don't know, this maybe? Can we snap? That's not snap, that's snapping. There we go. And then another ramp, maybe something like that. And then one more ramp, just because I like ramps. Although, in theory, we don't actually need ramps, but I just like the ramps because that will actually allow me to get on and off these platforms as well. Yeah, so that should work. Now, the real question is, how do we actually connect up these things? So I'm going to have to fight with the UI there for a moment, I think. We have pipes. We can build pipes like this, but what we want to do is connect these two up. Now we have this junction thing, but for some reason it's not snapping to where I want it to snap. So what happens if we build a pipeline support? We're going to have to make sure that we are aligning this. There we go. If I build that like this, well, that's really annoying, and that's not actually the same height. Doesn't it go any further up than that? Once again, that's quite annoying. And what if we just built a little foundation in the water? I know that doesn't necessarily make sense, but we might just do it temporarily. Now, I do like the fact that these overlapping things are actually allowed by the game. To be honest, from a technical point of view, I think it makes sense to have some foundations for this in the water. The things like this are sometimes just temporarily in order to make sure this actually all aligns. Now, if I can get the line to show, Is this actually aligned? Oh, it looks aligned to me, sure. Okay, and then we can connect that one up. And can we then now connect a pipeline cross junction thingy? Why does this not align to where I wanted it to align? I mean, I can apparently place it right in the middle, but that's not what we want to do. This is really annoying me, honestly. So maybe I actually don't know. We remove this pipe for a moment. Can we like do this? Can we connect this one up? No, we can't. If I just place this down, this is just gonna fly in the air. Yes, it is. Okay, let me fiddle around with this for a moment. Look everyone, I figured out how you actually build pipes. That's the good news. The bad news is we're actually out of copper sheets and I didn't bring enough to actually complete the piping. So we'll have to jump back to the base to get some more sheets. But before we do that, let me just quickly show you how you actually do this in case you aren't playing the game just yet and you do want to know how you do this. You actually place the junctions on the pipes. As you can see, we're out of copper sheets, but normally this would be green. And the same thing actually holds for the pumps. Now, the placement of pumps is actually quite important because, as you can see, they have a direction. So if you don't want your water to flow back on you, make sure you know where you're placing them. And typically, for example, right over here, this will ensure the water is actually flowing in this direction. Now, you only need pipes if you want to move water up, which actually is a detail I really like about this game. Normally, water doesn't flow up by itself. We're not going that far up in our case, so I'm not entirely sure we actually need a pump. You can go up by 10 meters, I believe, by default without needing a pump. And to be honest, we're going to cut it pretty close in terms of how far we are going to go up. So I'm probably just going to place a pump somewhere down here. Anyway, just to make sure that we don't get into any issues. But first of all, we'll have to jump back to our base to get some copper sheets. Okay, so just back in the main base for a moment, and to quickly show you what I probably should have done before we left, is I set up this second constructor over here that was originally making wires that went into the wiring facility over there. That is now separated and is now with a top belt going into a second storage unit making sheets. Now it's only going to produce about 7.5 sheets per minute, and by doing so, and I can probably take this one out while we go down. There we go. And because we are only producing 7.5, you can also put it to 75% clock speed, save a little bit of power because it won't be able to produce any faster than that anyway. That means that we are now making some sheets automatically as well, and I made some by hand as well. It's a pretty fast recipe, so not the worst thing in the world to make some by hand. But right now we have something like, where is it? Where's the main? Oh, 161. So I think that should be enough to complete the piping. But once again, and we're out of power. So we definitely need to go and fix that piping. And doesn't this look pretty? I'm really excited about this. Way more than I probably should be at just a couple of pipes. But it's my first pipes. Let me have this, people, please. Yeah, and I think it looks pretty decent. The one on the back here is a little bit funky because the sand was getting in the way. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So we have these pipes going in here. Now, if you actually have any tips on how to get this to go up a little bit more and then in a straight corner, I would be very much appreciating that if you could leave me a hint on how to do that, because I couldn't get it to work. Even though it did work just fine over here. Not really sure what the difference is, honestly. But, yeah, once again, didn't work for me. So if you have any tips, let me know. Second thing that we're going to need here is coal. Now, we have the coal facilities in the back. And we actually need only one coal mine for the moment to actually power these facilities. So that's actually really convenient. And that will actually give us all the power we need for now. So I'm going to go build myself a coal line. And then let's see if we can power this thing up. Okie dokie, so we have the coal coming in now. Well, it's not actually being produced just yet, but we do have a miner there connecting to this belt, and one of these miners will actually produce a full Mark 1 belt of coal, which should actually be enough to supply all of these 4 coal facilities, so that's quite convenient. No need to waste our more precious higher tier belts on this, just yet at least. Now, I actually also found a way to make these pipes look a little bit prettier by placing one of these pipe supports on the edge and then piping into that, and then in the facility that kind of avoids the fact that it normally would try to cut this corner. And I think it looks pretty good now. So, belts and coal. So let's see, we are going to need a splitter, and we're going to come in from this direction. So the splitter is actually already correctly oriented. We are going to be placing 4 of those. Now, technically, we only need 3, but it's gonna look, at least I think it will look a little bit more consistent and pretty if we use 4. And then we're going to put in a lift to do it like that. And like that. Like that. And like that. And not down, come on. Up. You know what we want to do. Okay, so now we just need to connect this one up. And it won't let me snap, so let's do that from down here. Might as well. Here we go. This one, that one, and now this should make all the coal go through. Initially it will have more of the coal going through than we need, at least into the facility, but that shouldn't be a problem, because as soon as the facility itself is saturated, it should automatically put the coal into the next facility. So at least I assume that's how that works. If not, it's not going to be the worst problem in the world either, but I have no reason to assume it won't actually work like that. Now, I don't actually think that last one connected. Let me double check. Nope, it didn't. And this is why the ramp is here. Oh wow, that actually looks really bad. Okay, so let's make sure this connects. There we go. Well, let's stand on top of this one. The other ones are connecting. Yes. Alright, so we have a miner over there, we have the water over here, we have everything hooked up to the coal facilities. Now we only need to put in place some power poles and we're good to go. And this is the best looking, completely hooked up, not functioning facility ever, I suppose. But fear not, because we are about to start it up. Now, in order to do that, we are going to have to give it a little kickstart. And in order to do that, what we're going to need is more bioburners. Now, we are going to need 2 of them to make this a little bit more efficient. I'm just going to plop them down, because we're not actually going to leave these for more than a few minutes. We do need to actually have the... why are we connecting these two? That's not gonna work. There we go. One there and one over there. And then we're going to need to feed these some leaves. And it's already starting to complain that that's not working for it. Well, I can imagine it to be exactly that. I'm actually going to have to split these leaves a little more, I think. I don't think that's actually going to work otherwise. It's a little few leaves in order to do so. Okay, and then we're going to start it up. Now, there's a couple of things that I need to mention. So I actually placed down a pump over here to make sure the water is flowing in the right direction. And water in this game is really awesome, at least in terms of how it's simulated, because you can see this one is now expanding and this one is also expanding. So you can actually see the fluid going through the pipes. And the wider it expands, the more fluid is actually in that pipe. Now the pumps are actually making sure it's going into this direction, and that's exactly what we want to do. So that's working like intended. And you can slowly see the water reaching up into the facility. And in a moment we should actually see it reaching this first facility over here. Now this doesn't currently actually have water, so it's not instant. Just like the belts, the water needs a few moments to actually reach into this facility, but that should be coming in any moment now. Now, for the same reason, of course, we are now starting to produce some coal in the back over here as well. So hopefully we should be seeing our coal production coming in the distance. I think we can. There we go. Now this is going to take its time. We actually have 1 full belt of coal, so that's all we need for these facilities. And then in a few moments, once the coal actually reaches the facility, it should start spiking up with power, because of course it has water, it has coal, and that means it will start producing power. Now, as soon as one of these facilities actually starts producing power, it will actually produce more power than these 2 bioburners combined. All we need to do is make sure that system stabilizes before we actually run out of leaves. And judging from the looks of how fast we're burning the leaves over here, I might just want to throw in some more leaves just to make sure that doesn't happen. So the first coal is now reaching the facility, the water is already there, and as you can see we suddenly have spikes of power. It's still jumping up and down a little bit, because of course it doesn't have a completely stable flow of coal just yet, because that's being spread across 4 different facilities. Now it should be enough to actually completely feed into those facilities, but as you can see it's not constant just yet, because they are alternating in terms of actually reaching those facilities. But we do have the capacity, as you can see, we have more or less 2 or 3 of them fired up right now. That's the 3rd one coming in, and that's the 4th one. So we have our facility up and running. Now I'm just gonna leave it here for just a moment to make sure it stabilizes out a little bit better before I take out these facilities, and then we should have all the water and all the coal we need for infinite power from this facility from that point onwards. Look, Malmy, no hands, I mean no biomass burners. It is completely self-sufficient now. It's actually powering itself, which to be honest is quite awesome. Now, just a word of warning, if you're trying to copy this build, make sure that you don't instantly hook it up, because if I check this, I think I will still see some power spikes. Now the reason for that is that the splitters are a little bit stupid. They are not actually splitting it in the way that we initially wanted. So it's over saturating the first few facilities while not actually sending enough coal on through the later facilities. So even though the first 2 should be completely up and running, of course we have 60 coal on the first belt, 30 of that is going in here initially, 30 of that are going in here, then we have 15 going up here, so these 2 are completely saturated all the time, but these 2 facilities after that will not be actually completely saturated until this one is completely filled up. So all the coal that it can stock up will be in the facility at some point, and then this splitter will start sending on the remaining coal into here, then this one will saturate, etc. And that will actually take quite a long time. There's a couple of ways you can deal with that. You can just leave the biomass burners here, but what I would actually suggest that you do is that you just start connecting this facility up with your main base and leave the biomass burners there, up and running for a little while, just to support the system while this one sorts itself out. Now I'm gonna do exactly that, because of course my entire production and my main base is currently sitting still. That is not efficient, so we want all those rotors, we want all those smart plating, etc, etc. So let's get this major long line of power up and running. So here we are back at our base. Even Bob came to see if this is actually going to work. We see all these dreaded red lights, and there's a power line going all the way back to our coal facility. If we now press the power pole, and I actually didn't know before that we could actually enable the power grid from a random power pole, but we can. Let's see if we turn this on. I think it should work. Hopefully. We can see the capacity is now at 570 megawatts, so that is the 270 from the biomass burners, as well as the 300 from the coal. And we actually need a little bit more. As you can see, the total maximum consumption could actually go just over 300 megawatts. Right now, I'm actually not using all of that power because not all of the facilities are actually constantly working. As you can see, we have this constructor here, for example, that is not currently producing any wood into biomass. There's a few of those over there as well. I'm actually completely full on a few items as well, I think. So all in all, we have a little bit of surplus in our facility, but of course that's not that much. But at least our entire facility that we've built so far will now be producing non-stop. The only problem is if we want to build anything more, then we are going to need some more power. I just doubled up the size of our factory, and actually when you overclock these things, 2 of these will be able to support 8 of these coal facilities like we've seen before, so I didn't actually have to place anything else in order to do this, other than of course the coal facilities and a second miner. And I also did need to rearrange the piping a little bit, because you can't actually funnel all the water through a single pipe. So this pipe is actually coming in here all in the way in the back through our original set of power plants, and then this second pipe is going next to the other one all the way around, and then all the way to the other side of this. And I'll just quickly show you, but it's the same idea as the first half, of course. We still have the belts, we still have the pipes going up, etc, etc. So it's the same basic thing. We have power poles in the middle feeding out of that. We are powering up a second miner in the back, and then this is still the main power line going through our main base. And with all of this power, we now have a huge amount of power to spare, a total capacity of almost 900 megawatts compared to the only 300 that we had at the start of this episode. So I would say that is a pretty successful scaling up of our power facility. Now, I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't just yet, and I will catch you in the next one.